Start off with that 5K. Start off with the 10K. Keep at the little races, and you learn from every single race. You don't have to. I see and I talk to so many people that jump from, hey, I've done a 5K, I'm gonna go do a marathon. And it's like, do you know the feeling when you cross the halfway point in a marathon and everyone goes left but you go straight? That's a Columbus Marathon I'm talking about. That's a mental that's sat in my head for so long.
Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast. We're here to encourage, empower, and enable. I'm glad to have my friend here. Every time we talk, he never ceases to impress me. He is one of the best ultra runners that I know of. August, how are you doing?
Doing good, Chris. How are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm mid-marathon block right now, so I'm in that phase of, you're getting to that, the higher mileage of the training block, and it's that overall cumulative fatigue. So I'm starting to get to it. We've been around the 50s or so past couple weeks, and yeah, it feels like it. It feels just like that. But enough about me. What do you have planned coming up? I know you probably have, probably another 500,000-mile race coming up or something. But no,
Yeah,
what's on your schedule coming up?
well, I've just wrapped up San Diego 100 last weekend, so now we are relaxing. We're actually going to take a break. I have now my next race is Moab 240 in October, so kind of a Super Bowl event coming up.
That sounds exhausting. Oh my God. Which it makes sense because the first time we met, we was at the gym and I walked in and I'm in my head complaining, man, I got an hour. I got to do 8 miles. I got to get an hour done. And I seen you over on the tread. I'm like, okay, he seems pretty cool. Let me just run next to him and we're talking. He's like, yeah. I got like 2.5 hours to do. Mind you, this is on a treadmill in the gym. I'm like, you know what? Let me shut up about my hour and hang on with you because clearly you're built different. And that kind of goes into my first question for you was, like I said, it's the first time I met you, but why ultras for you? What attracted you to that distance?
Uh, Once I got out of the Marine Corps, actually my first race ever was a marathon. I did the Columbus Marathon, and I was cooked after that. And so I kind of took I didn't do any training or take it really serious. My time was there like 4:48, and still
Mm.
solid, for just doing it. And
Hmm.
it's funny. I was watching YouTube, and some people in the community may know Sally McRae. She is a
Hmm.
world famous ultramarathon runner. And I just started watching her 200 milers, and I was like, man, that is something I would love to see and do. Like, I think you just see the side of the raw moments in these races that you experience that are not normal everyday things. And right after that, I ran Cap City half, took that prep serious, and I was hooked after that.
Hmm.
Once I saw that little bit of taste of success and a good prep, signed up for a 50K, and
Mm.
that was my first one in Ohio, down towards Chillicothe. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's
That sounds that's crazy that your first race was a marathon, which normally it's like I wouldn't recommend it for most of the people that I come with.
no,
But
no, definitely
you
not.
you know you said you part of Marine Corps, so that says enough about how different you already are built. Just
Yeah,
from that alone. And before I forget, thank you for your service. By the
I
way, that's
appreciate your
that's we
support.
appreciate you for that for sure.
Thank you.
But going into that ultra space that is something different. So you said you had your 50K further down in Chillicothe, which was your first one. Describe how that was, because again, I believe 50K, correct me if I'm wrong, is about 30, 31 miles, maybe
Yeah, like
32, if I'm
32.
not
You took
mistaken.
yeah, 31, 32.
32,
Yep.
yeah. How was that experience for you going into the very first one, your first ultra?
Stressful. There's a lot of there's a lot of logistics and just planning when it comes to these distances. And
Mm.
whether you're a type A or a type B person, it could make or break you. So um, I would go to the course all the time and practice. I'm buying gear
Mm.
left and right because I want to make sure I have the best of the best, and so like last minute needs, when it comes to a race, like, oh, I need that real quick and stuff like that. So um, towards the end of it, though, I had a coach. His name was Jason. Great guy, based out of Houston. Zoom calls, FaceTimes for how we would talk, and he got me to that distance, and we would the training really structured, pretty much like a marathon. I mean, I'm gonna say like
Mm.
it's 4 to 5 more miles than a marathon, but the volume was about the same,
Yeah.
So, but just being out on the trail side is a completely different ball game than road marathons and
Mm.
road running. Um, and I have never felt more free, you know,
Oh,
just being out there and experiencing
yeah.
nature, right? Like we live on such a beautiful planet, and the fact that we have trails and access to God's creation even
Mhm.
is just it really will open up your eyes from just seeing, we see cars all the time, we see parks, we see, that dog that's going to bark at you because he don't like you, right? So um that was my biggest thing, was just getting outside to a different world.
I hear that a lot from those who are doing ultras and trails. It's just that experience, the transition between road to outside and the beauty of nature in its own and being out there and having a different kind of mindset approach. I
Hmm.
feel like for those who have done, those that I've spoken with, it's a completely different vibe where road running can, both can have its competitive aspects, I'm sure, but it
100%.
feels like there's a lot less pressure to be as competitive for the trail and more so about the enjoyment and
Hmm.
the community behind it.
Yeah.
And even going from it sounds like the 50K didn't discourage you one bit because as you hinted at earlier, you just completed the San Diego 100 miler. And I can't fathom that. A marathon is enough for me, but you just
Yeah.
knocked that out. Can you describe, first
Yeah.
why? That's
Okay. Oh,
basically it.
yeah.
Why? That I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay.
Why?
So when I was stationed in the Marine Corps, I lived on Camp Pendleton in San Diego, and as I was building out my year and with training for Moab, I found out Moab before San Diego. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I had the opportunity to run a historical race. It's up there with Western States 100, and
Yeah, I've
for
heard.
and for my hometown, honestly, like I have the person you see today is because of San Diego and the Marines. So
Mm.
that hit such a heart at home of just like, man, like to complete that challenge there, right? And like do it for the hometown. That was my why, 100%. And I enjoyed every second I was out there for that reason. Um,
Mm.
it was just the most beautiful put together race, beautiful people, the volunteers, over 300 volunteers in a race. It was
Wow.
insane. And just, I could go on about it. So any questions you got on that, I could literally just keep, it was a
Yeah.
very great feeling to be out there.
How was it like when again, I'm sure the training was, and you've always been a diligent person that I know of,
Hmm.
when it comes to your training and things like that. You know, getting at the start line is one thing, getting to the start line is one thing, but
Yeah.
finishing it is another. How did that feel? Because I'm assuming that was your furthest distance thus far. Was the 100 mile your furthest distance?
Yeah, I did one last year, so this is my second, but in total,
Your
yeah,
second
100.
time doing that. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So then, like, how does that feel crossing the line, whether it be for the first one you did, or even this one recently for San Diego? How did crossing the line feel for you? Because to me, and I'm sure many of the other listeners, I can't fathom ever doing 100 miles. I can never say
Yeah,
never, but right now in the
that's right.
space that
That's
I'm
right.
in, it's not in my list. I'll tell you
Hmm.
that much. But like, how does that culminate when you cross the line for you?
So, and if I can, if I can try to remember in December of 25, that was my first one.
Yeah.
It was more. just like utter like disbelief, like truly, like,
Mm.
we live in this world now where 100 milers are becoming a thing. And, growing up, you would have told little August back in the day, hey man, you're going to run 100 miles. I'd probably be like, what are you talking about? Like, I wasn't a runner. I never was a runner. I never
Mm.
ran. I played baseball in high school. So, it was a huge sigh of relief because we are the biggest critics on ourselves when it comes to self judgment. Do I have what it takes? Am I going to do this? Will I crash and burn? And, I remember at mile 75, my left knee shot my first 100, literally couldn't run on it. And my feet were
Wow.
absolutely destroyed, blisters everywhere. I mean, like, just pain. And I remember that lap, the last lap, I had to walk it in. Literally walked. I probably ran maybe like half a mile, that total 16-mile loop. So, um,
Yeah.
but then I also remembered it at the end of the day too. It didn't matter. Like, I'm gonna get to the finish. And once I did, it was just
Hmm.
that biggest sigh of relief to know that all the work that was put in, and that's where it is. It's like how you said, like, we met on the treadmill. I had a 3 hour long run. I remember that. It's a dear memory in my heart because that
Yeah.
that was the unseen work that no one sees. I've done that countless times at Lifetime, countless, where no one, people look at you, whatever. But I would be in there running on that treadmill. And then when you came over to me and saw me doing that, you're seeing the unseen work that we all put in, right? We
Hmm.
all we all do this. So,
Yeah.
that was but San Diego was a totally different. I mean, we're talking about 15,000 feet of elevation gain. We're talking about major climbs here at altitude. Um, and just do it for the hometown type race was just something of, it was beautiful, like it honestly brought tears to my eyes, even thinking about, I
Wow.
remember going around the lake, seeing the finish line, and I was like, I'm about to finish one of the most historical races in the United States. And, getting fourth in my age group, I was pumped. It was,
That's amazing.
yeah, it was great just to see how, and you learn so much between your first 100 to your second. I am injury free. I had one blister on my heel. I could run today if I want, but I'm not. So it's I taught, like, it just kind of just felt like that level up the second time. So
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, okay. I'm not saying it gets easier. And there will be definitely races that are, every race is different. That's why I
Hmm.
never really set a big goal for them, But I do set big goals for sure, but in the sense of, being like an elite runner in that sense, to set a time, a crazy time, because it just takes, with the ultra, it takes one wrong move, your guts off,
Mm.
you know, or pain. Pain's a big
Yeah.
thing. Weather. I mean, there's a lot, but yeah, the gratitude is. It's just back to your question as I get in my rabbit hole. It's almost hard to explain
Yeah.
because you don't know how to react. I mean, at the end of the day, 100 miles is 100 miles, and it is far.
That is very far. Like and the
Yeah,
fact that you said, you learned something from the first 100 to the second 100. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wait, there's still two that we're talking about here. It's
yeah,
like, but it goes to, again, I hold that, that first time we met pretty dear because it reminded me that, when you've got to put hard work in, you have to show up.
hmm,
And you showed up consistently, and it showed in the success that you had in that. And I think that can be applied to, not, again, 100 milers. You can't fake a 100 miler. You can't fake a half marathon. You might be able to, but even that, like a half to a marathon and up, you can't fake those out. You can
yeah,
really do some serious damage, and you can
hmm,
really jack yourself up, being blunt. But you have to put in work to those to be as successful as you can as possible. And I never forget when I literally was like, if he can sit here and be this hardworking for his goal, I don't have an excuse because I showed up. and I'm sitting here talking in my own head, like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
here, yada yada. I got an hour. I'm tired. I want to go sleep. I want some waffles, whatever. But I
Hmm.
go in there, and something told me just to go run next to you. I just was sitting there, like, I need some motivation. He looks like he's running. He's got a ton of snacks, so I know he's going to be there for at least an hour. So let me go talk to him. And just so who's listening, I did not take his snacks. I am not that greedy.
Would have lended
But
you
no,
some if you needed it.
I know you would have, but thankfully I didn't need any. But it was just, you reminded me honestly that you got to show up for the hard days when you don't want to. You got to show up for, if you really are passionate about that goal, and you were a true testament to that. Even when you came
Hmm.
back to visit and you ran with us, you were still mid training block. You showed up, and you always have shown up for that. And I want to make sure that I thank you and I appreciate you for doing what you do, because I always tell people, and this is speaking personally, you never know who's watching you. And
It's true.
for differently this time, I was watching you. I was paying attention to what you were doing and what you were working for, and that impacted me. So I want to make sure that I thank you for just working hard and being present in that, and even having that conversation with me to talk about what you're working towards, because you never know who you spark. And, you sparked hard work for me that day. And
Hmm.
it reminds me that I can give that to others, to where even if I'm just showing up for myself, someone else may see that. And you are a good example of me witnessing somebody putting in hard work and giving me enough encouragement to say, if he can do this, I should be able to do my goals as well. We are both capable of doing great things, but we have to show up. So I just want to thank you for you putting that seed into my heart and giving that inspiration for me, because otherwise I'd have turned back home and went and laid
It was
down. But
cold that
no,
day.
it was, and I was ready to go home, but it speaks a lot to who you are and as your character. So I want to make sure I thank you for you
Appreciate it,
doing what you
Chris. Thank
do,
you.
and it's really dope. The
I really
last question I
appreciate it.
have for, of course, no, I truly mean that. The last question I've got for you would be, and I'm going to put this into the ultra space, because again, you truly are one of the best ultras that I know. You, like, because again, it's your diligence and your hard work, and my heart goes to those who are entering the space. Let's say, I'm not going to say me, but I will say never say never. Let's say you have somebody who's looking to get into the ultra space, to walking, running, whatever it may be, but they're looking
Yep.
into getting into that atmosphere. What would be one piece of advice you would give them as they enter into it?
One piece of advice would definitely be, you know, find a community.
Mm,
Um, there's a lot of resources. I myself, I am a lone wolf. I love to do the stuff that I do alone. That's just me.
mm,
Um, I think if you're getting into a racing type that is so alone, it can be hard at times, right? Like, I remember vividly, 2 a.m. Thankfully, I had a buddy on this past one, but, sometimes you're running by yourself and
mm,
it can get lonely in the dark. So, if you're already a runner, I would say, you know, if people have, I always tell people this, if you ran a marathon, you can easily run a 50K. We just got to talk more volume, a little bit more volume, go run the race. You'll be fine. We're talking about the 50 miler. Um, that's a different ball game because, it gets crazy once you hit 30 and you go, wow, I have 20 more miles to go. Like I almost have a marathon. And so the best piece of advice that I could give to someone who is just starting out and saying like, hey, I'm gonna start from ground zero. Awesome. I hope people do, because you truly can do it.
mm,
Start off with that 5K. Start off with the 10K. Keep
mm.
at the little races, and you learn from every single race. You don't have to. I see and I talk to so many people that jump from, hey, I've done a 5K, I'm gonna go do a marathon. And it's like, do
Listen,
you do you know the feeling when you cross the halfway point in a marathon and everyone goes left but you go straight? That's a Columbus marathon I'm
mm-hmm.
talking about. That's a mental that's sat in my head for so long. And I really tell people, start. in the smaller races, see what you can do, master those, like master your nutrition, master your stride, your
Mm.
heart rate, master everything, and then work your way up. Like we're not in a rush here. We ain't like the races will always be there, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's perfect.
I would really like for someone brand new starting, find a cool community that you can run with, preferably a trail if you can, and then start off with those easy races. You ain't gotta be an ultra marathoner tomorrow. There's a lot of, especially in trail running, the community is so tight and so nice. I mean, that's why I love it. I mean, I everyone you meet out there is very, very nice and friendly, and you can find people out there. There's plenty of
Mm.
clubs and whatnot. So yeah, the smaller distance races really matter in the sense of how am I going to feel after doing a 10K 6 times?
Mm.
You know?
That makes a big. I'm glad you said that because there's so many people that jump so quickly. I'm guilty of that when I first started going into the longer distance. First race I
Yep.
did was a half. I'd have loved to do a 5K if I'd have known better, but I didn't. I just saw, I'm like, oh, I could do that. I ran in school. Nah,
Exactly.
didn't work that way.
Hmm.
But I'm so glad that you talked about that patience aspect because
It is.
running is a patience sport. And if you give it
Hmm.
that respect it needs, it'll treat you well long term. And not every day is perfect. I mean, you have to hate running a little bit to show that you love it, but
Yeah.
I love that you really drove that home. So for those who are listening, it's okay to start small. There's no reason to jump to the biggest distance. I think one of the narratives that scares me sometimes when it comes to new runners is knowing the balance between I can do difficult things
Yeah.
or I'm doing it for the sake of it just being a difficult thing.
Yeah.
That's the
Hmm.
part that I try to figure out and bridge for people because, yes, it's great to do difficult things. My question is always why? What's the
Hmm.
purpose? What's the rush? What's the real benefit from that? And sometimes there's a mix between, sometimes there's a little bit of ego that can go involved in that, and that can get people in trouble, especially when
Hmm.
you start talking half and up to ultras, all of that such. I see a lot of people who jump to that and they establish an unhealthy relationship with running because they didn't give it the time it deserved for
Yeah.
them to really figure it out and enjoy that. So I think that is a very poignant and important message that we need to keep getting across
Yeah.
from that. And again, there's no rush. We got plenty of time. I'm considering I'm at 20%. You'll love to hear this. I'm considering doing a 50 miler next year. Maybe. I am
Love
at
it.
20%. It's the
Love it.
Selma to Montgomery relay. I might do the
Oh
whole thing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. I did. I've been doing a relays twice now. I might do the whole thing, but that's at 25%. So it's still a pretty good no,
Yeah.
but I will consider that. And when that time comes, best believe I'll be reaching out to you for some tips
Yeah.
and tricks on, how
Absolutely.
to get through that. But
Absolutely.
August, it's always a pleasure to speak with you and chat with you. And again, for those who are listening, his socials will be tagged to here and, placed on the screen. But I can't wait to see what else you accomplish. And my friend, it's always good talking with you, and I
Appreciate it, man.
appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Chris.